I think we're ready to get started for the deep dive this morning. I want to say welcome to everybody out there that joins the deep dive, starts their week out talking about the most important things in real estate. That's what we try to do every week when we start the deep dive. This morning, it's April 10th, and so grateful to have everybody on. And we'll be talking about a couple of things this week. Two really big topics that have come out recently. One, the generational trends report from NAR. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And probably the biggest topic is we've seen a little bit of relief in rates over the last couple of weeks. So we're going to cover that as well so that you are up to date and you are ready to go relative to everything happening. Be the most informed agent on these topics so that you can be the expert to those that you serve. If you think about this, the deep dive where we're at in April, in the spring market, and certainly feeling, I don't know where you're at, but feeling spring around here in Richmond, Virginia, where we're at with Keeping Current Matters, and grateful for that. And the spring home buying season is upon us. So being up to date, being equipped with all the information that we need to be the expert is going to be key in this market, just like so many others. So Jill, Daniel, Gina, see you there. Linda, great to have you. Tom, see you there from Kennewick, Washington. Great to have you on. So many people joining right now. We'll give just a minute before we get going, but let us know where you're watching from. Always so good to see people from all over the country that join the deep dive as we get started here, and we'll hop right in. Over the last several weeks, we've talked about prices, we've talked about affordability, we've talked about interest rates. Should I buy a home right now? We're going to maybe pull some of that together and talk a little bit about interest rates and who's buying homes coming out of the NAR Generational Trends Report. If you saw some of the headlines, that's where that came from. Great report to take a look at. We've synthesized some of the big pieces into some graphics that you can use. Always like having that. So seeing more and more people join. Great to see people. See there, Lisa in Central Valley, California. Michelle, great to have you on. So let's get started. And I pulled this quote here that I'll use to get us started from Sam Cater from Freddie Mac. He says this: mortgage rates continue to trend downward entering the traditional spring home buying season. And that's a good thing, right? We're heading into the spring. We're in the spring. It feels like spring, certainly here in April, and mortgage rates are continuing to trend down. Now, I want to give you a look at this real quick. This is what this looks like going all the way back to fall of last year when we started saw rates peak in the sevens there, and kind of have been on this downward trend throughout the last several months. And as we came through the beginning of the year, we saw rates kind of tick up and now coming back down. I used this quote last week. If you didn't watch the deep dive last week, you can go back, watch the archive if you're a KCM member, and grab the slides from that. But the bottom line is the little economic market and all the things that are happening economically are having this downward sort of pressure and downward effect on mortgage rates. And that's a good thing. That helps affordability. Kate talked about affordability, and that's one of the biggest topics that has been sort of weighing on real estate this past year is affordability. But as rates come down, we see homes becoming more affordable. The thing that's interesting there is there are three things that impact affordability: interest rates, prices, and wages. Well, we know rates have come down, still a volatile market, but have trended down. We know wages have increased over the last year, and then prices have kind of been where they've been out. We talked about that and where they've stood. But a lot of people think for affordability to improve, prices have to fall, and that's not true. As interest rates come down, as wages increase, then we see better affordability. The other graphic that we've used several times, if you're a KCM member or you followed the deep dive, you're familiar with this graphic, the demand-based interest rate environment that we've been in. We're going to continue to keep this updated for you so that you have perspective on where we're at. But we've touched every one of these bands of demand, I'm going to call it, since the beginning of the year. We came along and in the first week of February dipped down, then spiked back up, and now we're coming back into a very good level of demand. The biggest issue being the lack of homes that are on the market for the number of people that want to buy them. But if you think about this, you go back to the average interest rate, 6.2 8%. On an average 30-year fix, coming down off maybe near 7 just a few weeks ago. That is a good thing for good demand out in the market. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about for this deep dive is the generational trends report from NAR. Comes out every year. They give us a perspective on who's buying homes. This is a look at the prior year generational trends report, the 2022 report. And if you remember that, we talked a lot about millennials driving demand. You see it right there. Some of the younger and the older, excuse me, millennials driving a lot of demand out in real estate. Well, we've seen a shift in that. And I want to show that to you right now. If you've seen some of the headlines, this is where that came from. This is the shift. Let me go back and just that little shift towards an older demographic buying homes. And you see where the shift is, those over the age of 42, young boomers, older boomers, making up more of the home buying segment. If you break this down, 28% of the buyers today are in the millennial category, 39% in the boomer category. 67% of buyers, this is amazing, are over the age of 42 right now. Let me say that again, 67% or 2/3 of buyers are over the age of 42. And that's sort of been reported on, been talked about out there. You want to understand that so that you know that you're connecting with the right people. But Jessica Lantz from NAR said this: baby boomers have the upper hand in the home buying market. The majority of them are repeat buyers who have housing equity to propel them into their dream home, be it at a place to enjoy retirement or a home near friends and family. They are living healthier and longer and making housing trades later in life. I think this is a big point. Boomers and those that have equity in their homes are less interest rate sensitive to buying, right? They don't have to finance as much. The other point she makes is people are living longer, staying in their homes. And that's certainly an impact that we're seeing happening all over the country with folks that are buying right now where activity is at. Another very interesting study that came out last week was in Builder Online through Zonda for folks that are renting. So if we think about this, who's buying right now, we see that shifting towards the older demographic, but what about renters? They came out with this survey and they asked this question: are you willing to pay more for a monthly mortgage payment compared to rent, giving some of the longer term benefits of home ownership? 25% said they'd be willing to pay an additional $500 a month more to own versus rent. 14% said they'd be willing to pay up to $1,000 more. Now that's willing to, not, can they absolutely afford it? But, if we know who's buying, we know that renters go, I want to build equity. I want to be able to go out and buy a home. That's an important piece of this spring market that we need to tap into. Some of the millennials that are in this category, also inside of that study from Zonda, why did millennials choose to buy? One, building my own equity instead of someone else's. We've talked extensively on the deep dive about home ownership as a tool to build equity. It's the number one way that people develop or build wealth in this country. They also say change in life stage, settling down, appreciation, another one, rising prices, build equity. Seeing that very clear in the desire to own a home right now. Now, the interesting piece is what's the reason they're waiting? That was covered in this Zonda report as well. And one thing I want to pause for a second to encourage you to do this. If you're a KCM member and you download these slides after the deep dive, which is a benefit of being a member, you can go into the notes, go into the source of the article or the report or the information, and go in and read it for yourself so that you truly understand it. Okay. But one of the reasons that millennials have said they are renting, let's shift this to why they're renting, is they're waiting for home prices to come down. They're going, hey, I think prices are going to come down, and so I'm just going to wait. I'm going to rent right now. Maybe they can't afford it. You see that, can't afford it in general, haven't found the right home to purchase. But a lot of people, over half of those millennials that are renting, are saying, I believe home prices are coming down. Now, what's perspective on that? CoreLogic gave us some great information coming out in the last couple of weeks. U.S. home prices rose by 0.8% in February, indicating that prices in most markets have already bottomed out. So if you go back to this and you're waiting for prices to come down, you're a millennial that you're renting, we need to get this word out from CoreLogic that likely prices in most markets have bottomed out. I think this topic of prices, again, if you missed last week's deep dive, go back and watch that. We talked about prices, went deep on all the information the KCM research team has developed on home prices across the country, and you can be the expert on that. And on that topic, the reason we do the deep dive, the reason we produce all the content that we do at Keeping Current Matters is so that you can be the expert. Plain and simple. We want you to have the information you need to be the expert on the topics that matter to buyers and sellers right now, so that you can step into a conversation with confidence and say, I understand that. I know what's happening here. Let me share a report with you about what's happening on that particular topic. One of the best ways to do that is every single month on the 10th, we come out with our monthly market report. That's usually about 20 to 25 slides, an audio of those slides of about 20 or 30 minutes. And we give all of that to you with a transcription, basically the notes, all the information, so that you can then go back and digest that information. I tell people all the time, if you're new to real estate, watching the monthly market report every month will give you a perspective on the topics that people are concerned about, that they're talking about, that they're interested in. So go and check that out. If you're a KCM member, go and grab the monthly market report. If you're not a KCM member, as always, we'd love to have you join KCM, and certainly this spring market, being the expert, I think will be the difference. And we'll wrap up on that so that you can be the expert in your market. We'll see you back next week. Hey, one thing we're going to do next week, I will tell you this real quick before we log off. George Ratu, KCM's new chief economist, will be on the deep dive next week. You don't want to miss that. It's going to be a great session, and we'll see you then. Take care.